Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the North Carolina Wildlife Resources Commission public hearing on the 2026-2027 Inland Fishing, Hunting, and Gameland Regulations public hearing. My name is Will Casola. I'm the agency policy analyst. At this time, I'll pass the meeting to our executive director, Kyle Briggs, for some opening remarks.
Good afternoon. I'm Kyle Briggs. I'm the executive director for the Wildlife Commission. Speaking on behalf of staff and the agency's 21-member board of commissioners, I'd like to thank you all for attending today's virtual public hearing. The Wildlife Commission is the state regulatory agency responsible for the enforcement of fishing, hunting, trapping, and boating laws, and provides programs and opportunities for wildlife-related educational, recreational, and sporting activities. The General Assembly declares through state statutes which matters of fish, wildlife, and land management the Wildlife Commission can regulate through its rules. Before we begin the hearing, I want to emphasize the importance of your active participation in our rulemaking process. All public comments are given the same consideration, whether submitted verbally at a hearing, by mail, email, or online. The commissioners review and consider all comments and suggestions before deciding whether to adopt, amend, or reject proposals. Now, please allow me to introduce the staff you'll be hearing from tonight in the order that they'll be speaking. You've already heard from Will Casola, our policy analyst. Next will be our Inland Fisheries Chief, Corey Oakley. Then Darren Barnes, Chief of our Land and Water Access Division. And finally, Brad Howard, Chief of our Wildlife Management Division. With that, I'll hand it back off to Will to explain the virtual hearing process. Will.
Before we get started this afternoon, just a few housekeeping items. All participants will remain muted during the presentation until we begin accepting public comment. We have disabled the Q&A function for this hearing. We will be monitoring the chat, but only for technical difficulties. Please do not type any comments into the chat. After each division presents their proposed rule changes, we will accept verbal comments and I will provide instructions at that time. And finally, just a reminder, written comments can be submitted via email or online at any time during the open comment period through our website. At this time, I will hand the presentation over to Corey Oakley, Inland Fisheries Division Chief, to present the proposed inland fishing rule changes.
Good afternoon, everyone. We will review the inland fishing rule proposals. Just a brief outline. The first four proposals are for public mountain trout waters. The next two will be about mountain trout specifically. Then we will talk about fishing on game lands, and we will discuss different bass species. And then we will discuss F11, which is our spotted sea trout rule. And then we will finish the last two with spawning areas and possession of certain fishes. So these first few mountain trout rules are specifically talking and reclassifying streams in order to better show what section of streams are being stocked with our fish. And so F1 is to reclassify 0.1 miles of Rich Branch in Buncombe County from hatchery-supported trout waters to wild trout waters. F2 will modify the boundaries of the following hatchery-supported trout waters to represent the specific reach being stocked. Those include Bent, Cane, and Stony Creeks in Buncombe County, West Buffalo Creek in Graham County, and Shut-in and Spillcorn Creeks in Madison County. F3 will reclassify 1.1 miles of Corner Rock Creek in Buncombe County, located on Pisgah game lands, and it will go from hatchery-supported trout waters to wild trout waters and remove 130 yards of Corner Rock Creek downstream of the game land boundary from public mountain trout waters. F4 will modify the upper boundary of hatchery-supported trout waters on the Swannanoa River in Buncombe County. The new reach will be from Riverwalk Park in Black Mountain to the Wood Avenue Bridge at the intersection of NC 81 and US 74A in Asheville, except where posted against trespassing. This proposal will remove 1.2 miles from our public mountain trout water program. Then the next two are specifically about mountain trout. First is F5, allow year-round fishing with no closed season on hatchery-supported trout waters impoundments, regardless of whether they are used for hydropower production or municipal water supply. And the reason for this is that a lot of these reservoirs in our mountain regions are no longer listed as hydropower production or municipal water supply, but yet we want to still allow year-round fishing in those areas. F6 will add the Cullowhee Dam impoundment to the list of hatchery-supported trout water impoundments, which are open for fishing year-round with no closed season. F7 is fishing on game lands. It is to designate waters on South Mountains game land in Burke and McDowell counties as public mountain trout waters and classify them as wild trout waters. This rule will make all of those waters within Burke and McDowell counties on South Mountains game lands under the same classification. F8, we're now dealing with largemouth bass. F8 is to remove the daily creel and establish that no more than 5 fish greater than 14 inches may be possessed in Lake Camac in Alamance County. The reason for this rule is that Lake Camac has had bass in the population for a long period of time that are very small, and they need thinning. And this will allow anglers to be able to better harvest those fish and yet still protect some of those larger fish that are in the system. F9 is to remove the daily creel limit, a protective slot limit of 14 to 22 inches, and possession restriction for fish greater than 22 inches for spotted bass in the Allegheny County portion of the New River downstream of Fields Dam. This rule will be in conjunction with Virginia, and those rules will match, so when you cross state lines, the rules will be the same. F10 deals with white bass, and it is to remove the minimum size limit of 14 inches for white bass. The creel limit of 10 fish per day will be retained. We set forth this rule about 5 years ago to see if we could gain an increased size and age structure of white bass. And we have studied this pretty intensively across the state. And what we have found is that the 14-inch minimum size limit is too high and is really not necessary at this point. And so we're removing that minimum size limit, but we are going to retain the 10 fish per day creel limit. F11 is to establish a no possession slot limit from 20 to 26 inches and reduce the daily creel limit from 4 fish to 3 fish per person, with only 1 fish greater than 26 inches for spotted sea trout in inland and joint fishing waters. The minimum size limit of 14 inches will be retained. The reason for this rule is that we are doing this in conjunction with the Division of Marine Fisheries, and this is a part of the spotted sea trout plan that the Division of Marine Fisheries has. F12 is to prohibit fishing from March 1 to May 31 in the recently constructed Kings Bridge floodplain slough connected to the French Broad River, 0.6 miles downstream of the NC 191 bridge in Henderson County. This is also in conjunction with several other rules that we have in floodplain sloughs along the French Broad River. This is to allow muskie to spawn in the spring of the year without having fishing in those areas. And so we're trying to restore muskie to the French Broad River. And then finally, is possession of certain fishes. We are adding Asian pond mussel and golden mussel to the list of species for which it is unlawful to transport, purchase, possess, sell, or stock in the public or private waters of North Carolina. Both of these groups of mussels have been found in the United States at this point in time. We do not want them in North Carolina. They are detrimental to many of our native mussel species.
Thank you, Corey. That concludes the proposed inland fishing rule changes. At this time, we'll begin accepting public comments. Please only comment on the proposed inland fishing rule changes at this time. You'll have the opportunity to comment on other proposed rule changes shortly. For those of you who wish to comment, please click the raise hand button so we are notified that you'd like to speak. We will call your name, unmute you, and then you'll be prompted to both unmute yourself, and at that time you should be able to speak. For those of you that called in using your phone, please hit *9 to be placed in the queue to speak. We will call the last 4 digits of your phone number and unmute you when it's your turn. We do ask that if you comment, you keep your comments respectful and to 2 minutes or less, and that you only comment on the presented proposed amendments. Please raise your hand or press *9 to comment at this time. Once again, if you'd like to comment, please click the raise hand button or press *9. Seeing no comments at this time, I will now hand the presentation over to Darren Barnes, Chief of Land and Water Access, to present the proposed land and water access rule changes.
Good afternoon. My name is Darren Barnes. I'm the Chief of the Land and Water Access Division. I'm going to present the Land and Water Access Division's proposals for the 26-27 regulation cycle. We have 11 proposals today that we'll talk about. We'll talk about use of game lands for 2 of these proposals, mountain biking for one of the proposals, horseback riding for our 4th proposal. We'll talk about Chowan game land. We'll talk about Mayo game land and changes to Pisgah game land, as well as changes to Sandhills game land and some dog deer hunting changes. And then we'll finish up with a wildlife conservation area change. So we'll start with G1. G1 is a proposal that will adjust the allowable camping days on game lands within designated camping areas to align with the newly adopted wild turkey season framework. So previously, our camping on game lands in those areas ended on May 14th each year. Now that the turkey season can go a little longer than that, we're going to now allow camping until May 31st so that we'll incorporate all of the turkey season. Proposal G2 will modify the current use of weapons rule on game lands that restricts the use of a weapon within 150 yards of a residence that is located on or adjacent to a game land. And this rule would allow the use of archery equipment within those 150 yards. So previously you could not discharge any weapon. And this proposal will allow that archery equipment to be to utilize within that 150 yards. Proposal G3. This proposal will adjust the recreational bicycle riding dates on the Butner Falls game land for the designated New Light mountain bike trail that is on that game land, and it will align those dates to match the newly adopted wild turkey season framework. Again, this really shifts this by 1 day. So currently, you can ride on Sundays from September 1st to May 14th. Now that will be September 1st to May 15th. And then the trail is open throughout the week from it used to be from May 15th to August 31st, and that will now be May 16th to August 31st. So it's shifting 1 day later. Proposal G4 will prohibit horseback riding on the Buxton Woods game land, except on the Piney Ridge Trail. So Piney Ridge Trail is already a designated horseback riding trail, and this proposal will allow you to horseback ride on the trail, but will prevent horseback riding on other parts of Buxton Wood game lands. Proposal G5 will remove Chowan game land as a game land from the game land program and add it as a parcel to the Chowan Swamp game land. So the Chowan game land is a 32-acre parcel in Chowan County, and we are instead of it being its own standalone game land, it will now just be considered part of the Chowan Swamp game land. Proposal G6. This proposal on Mayo Lake will prohibit private construction of piers, docks, moorings, and other similar facilities or structures at the Mayo Lake game land. This is a Duke Energy property, Duke Energy Progress owned property, and their agreement does not allow for these structures to be along the lake. And so this rule will prevent them from being constructed or used along the lake shore. Proposal G7 on Pisgah game land. This proposal will prohibit activities other than hunting, fishing, trapping, and authorized use of the posted trails and parking areas on the Lutz tract of the Pisgah game land. And just for a point of reference, the Lutz tract this area includes Wilson Creek. So along this Wilson Creek area, any activities outside of those hunting, fishing, trapping, and authorized trail use will not be allowed. Proposal G8 on the Sandhills game lands. This proposal will restrict fox squirrel hunting to be by permit only on that Sandhills game land. So this permit will be a point of sale permit that anyone can get, but it will be required to hunt fox squirrels on the Sandhills game land. So proposal G9. This proposal will restrict dog, deer, and bear hunting to the portion east of PD River and north of US 74 by permit only. Will prohibit the pursuing or chasing deer or bear with dogs for the purpose of training. So this is on PD River game land. It will restrict dog deer hunting to be by permit only for that section that is east of the PD River and north of US 74. Proposal G10. This is on the Sandhills game land. It will restrict dog deer hunting by permit only on the Sandhills game land and prohibit pursuing or chasing deer with dogs for the purposes of training. It will also prohibit individuals convicted of a wildlife or trespass violation while hunting deer with dogs from receiving a permit for hunting deer with dogs the season following conviction. So this again on the Sandhills game land would allow dog deer hunting, but with a permit only. Proposal G11. This proposal will remove Robeson game land from the game lands program and convert it into a wildlife conservation area. The Robeson game land is a small parcel, 42-acre parcel in Robeson County, and it does not have good access, vehicular access. So this will convert that to a wildlife conservation area, which still allows hunting 3 days a week on Monday, Wednesdays, and Saturdays.
Thank you, Darren. That concludes the proposed land and water access rule changes. At this time, we'll begin accepting public comments. Please only comment on the proposed land and water access rule changes at this time. As mentioned before, if you'd like to comment, please click the raise hand button so we are notified that you'd like to speak. And if you're calling in from a phone, please hit *9 to be placed in the queue. Please click the raise hand button or press *9 if you'd like to provide comment at this time. Seeing no comments at this time, I will now hand the presentation over to Brad Howard, Chief of Wildlife Management, to present the proposed wildlife management rule changes.
Thank you, Will. Good afternoon, everyone. Wildlife Management Division has 5 rule proposals to present. The first 3 deal with our ongoing efforts to manage chronic wasting disease. The 4th one deals with whitetail deer and deer seasons in the western part of the states, and the 5th one deals with gray squirrels. Proposal H1 will establish CWD management area counties. Those counties will be Cumberland, Forsyth, Stokes, Surrey, Wilkes, and Yadkin counties. And it will establish the deer seasons in those counties in this separate rule. It will shift the timing of black powder and gun season to open 1 week earlier in Forsyth, Stokes, Surrey, Wilkes, and Yadkin counties, and which the opening day of archery season will stay the same, but archery will be shortened by 1 week since black powder will start a week sooner. There are no recommended changes to the Cumberland season at this time. Proposal H2 will establish a 2-day early season or velvet season for antlered buck only on all lands, public and private, on the weekend of the fourth Saturday in August in all CWD management area counties. It will allow for all lawful weapons. The normal $2 season limit would apply, plus any CWD map tags that have been issued to individuals in those counties. Proposal H3 changes the carcass transportation rules to emphasize disposal rather than transportation. It will require non-edible portions of deer harvested to be disposed of in a lined landfill buried under specific conditions or left on the ground within the county of origin, and this rule will apply statewide. Proposal H4 increases the either sex seasons on private lands in 6 western season counties: Avery, Burke, Caldwell, Madison, Mitchell, and Yancey. And it increases the either sex season on private lands in 3 northwestern season counties: Cleveland, Polk, and Rutherford County. It will also remove the CWD management area counties from the standard deer rule, which this is. And proposal H5 adjusts the opening of the spring gray squirrel season to ensure that there's no overlap with turkey season. And it expands the spring gray squirrel season to game lands. Currently, it is private lands only.
Before we end the hearing today, I'd like to remind everyone that the comment period is open through September 15th. Comments may be submitted through mail, through email, or through the online comment portal, and all this information can be found at our website at ncwildlife.gov. I will now turn the meeting over to our Executive Director, Kyle Briggs, for a few closing remarks.
Thank you again for participating in our rulemaking process. Our commissioners look forward to reviewing all the comments so that they can make the best decisions on how to manage wildlife resources in North Carolina. Please continue to go outdoors and enjoy the great wildlife associated recreation that this state has to offer. Thank you and have a good evening.
We appreciate your attendance. The public hearing is now closed.